Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you if this game's with their time and bandwidth. Today's game is Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP. The PS360 cult classic is back with a new coat of paint. Is it a remaster worth cheering on? Let's find out. Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP is the remake of the 2012 Lollipop Chainsaw, released back when Suda51 still made games and writer James Gunn could put swears in his scripts. You play as Juliet, cheerleader and zombie hunter, and on her 18th birthday, zombies and some demon gods summoned by the Goth Kid invade their small town. It's up to her and her equally weird family to put a stop to it, aided by the magically still alive severed head of her boyfriend Nick. As mentioned, this is Gunn's work and it shows, with the game leaning heavily into its premise of a town with a 50s era aesthetic fused with violence, gore, innuendo, and plenty of naughty words. Somehow this eclectic mix of nonsense actually blends together really well into something wholly unique and cohesive, should you be willing to go along for the ride. Gameplay wise, Lollipop Chainsaw is a Suda51 game of the era, which is to say it draws a lot on its contemporaries, but does most of those things worse. It's a hack and slash, with there being a fairly high number of enemies to mow down and crowd control, so Juliet is equipped with a low damage palm tap that can stun and set up for executions, as well as the titular chainsaw for slow high damage. You'll be doing this through 6-ish linear stages, which often have fellow students to save, and gimmicks to spice things up. Things like dash jumping off ramps, blasting enemies with a chainsaw gun, or just running them over in a John Deere combine. You start with a very limited kit of moves that thankfully expands quickly as you purchase them from a shop. A fun mechanic is doing a multi-kill gives a sparkle combo, which grants not just gold but rare silver medals, which are mostly used to buy cosmetic stuff. It's worth mentioning that the original Lollipop Chainsaw had a lot of licensed music, and most of them are gone now and replaced with new songs. It makes sense as this now allows the game to be re-released, but worth noting. In addition to that, RePOP does add a few improvements. Higher fidelity assets and resolution, of course, a somewhat smoother frame rate, the shot being less of a grind, and adjusting combat to try and speed things up as the original game was a little slow. And really, that's Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP, a weird and manic sparkly zombie killing romp, now freshened up and ready for the state finals. So what I like about Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP? Well, Lollipop Chainsaw continues to be a very weird, very energetic, and a bit messy game that's dripping with style and personality, and that style is infectious and thankfully still present in this remaster. Additionally, while some of the humor feels a bit dated, it's so earnest in how crass and stupid it is you can't help but laugh with and at it. This is the pre-Marvel era of James Gunn, where he definitely leaned heavily into shock humor and general absurdity. And lastly, the RePOP does offer some improvements over the original. My personal being the one I mentioned, where the store is no longer an insanely massive grind, and having replayed the PS3 version recently and seeing how blurry it was, having these visuals be sharper is nice. When it comes to the bad, this remaster's just rife with bugs. Audio cuts out, bosses can't be executed, graphical and clipping glitches, currency amounts display wrong, hit detection is borked, an inconsistent frame rate, and more. It's safe to say it's a mess. Additionally, combat in Lollipop Chainsaw was never particularly great, with it really only getting fun once you had unlocked a bunch of the moves, so I was disappointed to see nothing had been done to fix or improve that, and specifically not fix the obnoxious camera that seems magnetically attracted to being in the wrong spot. And lastly, while I do understand licensing issues, having played this right after the original on the PS3 made me realize how integral that music was. Mickey playing during Rainbow Mode, You Spin Me Around while driving the Combine, the soundtrack in general set the tone perfectly, and the new tunes don't stack up. As you know, I rate games on a 3-point scale, must play, maybe consider, and don't bother. And the original Lollipop Chainsaw was a fun, campy, weird, but flawed little game that put style over substance and rightfully earned its cult following. This remake, however, is really disappointing. The bugs will hopefully get fixed, but no attempts to smooth out the rough combat, not to mention the lack of original songs, is a big bummer. If you loved the game when it came out, it's probably still worth picking up since it's a miracle it got re-released in the first place, but for those uninitiated who want to try it out, I really recommend waiting for a patch. That's all I have today. Thank you so much for watching, and did you play the original Lollipop Chainsaw? Have you even heard of this game? Let me know what you think in the comments, but regardless, go out there and maybe grab this one once they've patched out some of the problems.